I'm Nick Hernandez, and you're listening to the Positivity Matters podcast. On this show, we talk about well being theoretically, scientifically, practically. Today, I have Amy Lanham as a guest on the program. She is the director of campus recreation at the University of Nebraska Lincoln, and she gets to help people have fun and builds their well being while she's doing it. Amy, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
That's
I do get to have
y-
fun.
that like yeah, I saw with another job that gets to be play is your thing. It's with at the children's hospitals. They have play professionals that come at the things maybe that aren't so easy to get at from out of playfulness is how they try to approach that.
Yep.
But yeah, this you never know what someone's coming into the campus rec center with. I've heard of trauma informed. I've been thinking of this notion of strengths informed. So trauma and strengths informed about the person who shows up to campus rec. And you're focused on well-being. Like, this is awesome. Tell us the story. How did campus rec become a part of your life? What's the journey been like? Where did well-being enter into the mix?
Yeah. So I actually stumbled upon campus recreation as a post-sophomore at the University of Nebraska Lincoln. I had done my undergrad. I did my undergrad and graduate work here, but as an undergraduate student, participated in things my first year at school and loved it. I just didn't know how campus recreation actually functioned. So, actually, out of financial need, I was a biology major and I needed to take physics 141 and 142 one summer. So, I was going to be on campus all day, every day. And I was awarded work study. So, back in the day, checked a bulletin board, found a job, went over to campus rec, got the job, and started working. And then my relationships with the individuals there really taught me that this could be a career path, and I could use the things that I loved about biology with anatomy and physiology and just movement and play and interaction and fun could be something that I do all day, every day. So I made that transition, finished out the biology degree, and then looked at a master's in education, specifically in post-secondary athletic administration. So how to be an athletic director, how to run a rec center, those type of things. But then just started my journey in campus recreation, and then I wanted to live anywhere but Nebraska, so I moved and worked professionally in North Carolina for a couple of years. I was at a beach school, so that was things that UNL could not offer me, and then came
Hmm.
back. But as part of that, I think in the recreation space, um, and how I got well-being really tied into that too is looking at more of the upstream pieces. You can pick up a lot of pieces of literature and talk about endorphins and natural body chemistry. And I think some of that was my biology background too, that I can be having the worst day ever and I can go outside for a 10-minute walk and have sunshine and get my body going again, and my mood dramatically changes. And so I think really that physical well-being was the start of connecting all of those dots, but then also thinking about, okay, um, if I had the opportunity to do what I do well every day, if I have the opportunity to make sure that those other dimensions of wellness feed into my holistic health, um, how much better my quality of life is. And so trying to work with partners on campus, trying to use my professional position to help the growth mindset of 18 to 24-year-olds as the traditional age college student. It's one of the best jobs out there. So
I would be hard pressed to think of something more awesome. So,
it, no day's the same. You get a why. I tell people all the time too that we're a get to, not a have to. And so when someone's coming in here to play a game of pickup basketball with their friends, it's the highlight of their day, and we get to make sure that that experience for them lives up to that expectation.
beautiful. We mentioned hope before we officially started this podcast. And one of the things that I feel is lays the foundation for this creation of practical hope is the uh like comes from physical well-being, and that is that when we move our muscles release a substance that's called brain derived neurotropic factor. So it's mislabeled from the beginning, but be that as it may, like this thing crosses the blood brain barrier, and I've heard it described as miracle grow for our brains, that it causes this, more axons and connections, and it's like our muscles are actually a part of our endocrine system, and it's you physically, when you do the take care of the physical well-being, you're you're building your capacity for mental well-being, like at the very same time. And that to me is just the kind of thing that really, I think, sets up a fantastic stage for this. Hope is a practical hope, this the star of the hero of the psychological capital construct. It stands for hope, self-efficacy,
Yeah.
resilience, and optimism. If you haven't heard of Fred Luthon's PsyCap model before, but yeah, so I think you are responsible for a good chunk of the growth in mental well-being that happens at UNL. So thank you for that.
Appreciate that. No, and I think that's one of the challenges in modern day too, is that some people think that when you talk straight up campus recreation and don't necessarily take it on that well-being, it's like, oh, I need to be healthy to use that, or there's some connotation about it's all about the physical piece. But the point you just made is so huge that yes, your physical health lends into your mental health, your brain health, all of those things, because it's all one system and it's all tied together. So,
Yeah, yeah. One of my strengths is connectedness. So I want to know all the inputs to well-being. What is well-being? My second strength is maximizer. So then it's like I want to maximize all that good stuff. So this thing that I'm doing, this positivity matters, is kind of my strengths writ large. So I being the city where this strength psychology kind of emerged, I was not surprised to find that you had tried the Strengths Finder before multiple times, and I'm always delighted when I meet someone that has responsibility as a part of their top strength. It's like the good things we're good at and enjoy. Like that is something that is not in my top strength, but I appreciate people that have that. So I see you have responsibility, communication, developer, relator, and belief. Just a quick shout out. Tracy at the Lincoln Community Foundation has developer in her top strengths, and that's the a new one in her most recent round. One of the past episodes recently, she goes a little bit into depth in that. So I love seeing that when I see somebody that's in a place where like you're seeing the development of people happen, and you've got that there, and relator, like that's seems like a beautiful combination. But enough of me talking about your strengths. I'll let you talk about your strengths. How do your strengths, which ones do you really say yes to, and like how do you see them playing out in your through what you do?
I lean in. heavy to the developer piece and the communicate. I'm a talker. I like people. I mean, I truly enjoy the relationships and the development of others. So that's big for me. And then, one of my other things that I lead with is belief, and the work that I have to do needs to have meaning for me in the spaces that I'm at. And so, uh, you know, I think one of the other things that is really part of my job that's not necessarily um, spelled out in an essential job duty is developing students to bring things into their lives outside of the academic enterprise that actually help them be successful and achieve what those goals are for themselves. So, when I lean into developer and I lean into relator and I'm able to connect the dots for a student about how they can improve their overall holistic health and well-being. It just gives me a lot of meaning to my job, and it's really, really important to me. And that probably leans into that responsibility piece of, oh, if someone needs to do this, it needs to be me, as part of that. But you know, I I love to see people reach their goals. I love to see people um, take a chance on themselves and inspire them to do what they do well every day. And I think that's the developer that comes to the top when I interact with people. So,
When I see developer, I read that as hope sharer.
yep. I like that. I like that. I might have to incorporate that in. So,
Uh,
yeah, I laugh sometimes, when I will get into a presentation mode and I kind of turn into teacher mode, or I turn into um like coach mode, because I think that is the developer undercurrent of let me champion this for you. Let me help you be better at what you can do here, and let me show you how much growth and potential you have as a human being. So,
yeah, there's the so the dear listeners, hope in the psychological version is this notion that we're able to formulate meaningful goals for ourselves, pathways to those goals. This is all good stuff taking place on the stage of the imagination. Then comes action. Sometimes there's obstacles and we have to recreate pathways. And that is a part of this hope construct as well. And with accomplishment comes a little bit of filling of our own buckets. Our own emotional well being is in part within our control. Continuous iteration and pursuit of meaningful goals results in a rise in agency, more commonly known as willpower. If we then step back and look at the goals thinking and pathways thinking as learnable cognitive skills, we can zoom out and call that interaction of those two things way power. So, practical hope is about the cultivation of way power, and then willpower is a part that kind of arises. It's a consequence of that, the cultivation of way power. And happiness seems to be a pretty close companion as well. It's been suggested that hope may be closer to the essence of what well-being itself is than some of the current constructs, and there's development of new assessments that incorporate practical hope that are on the horizon. That's just a little bit of what editorial commentary to the listeners or something. Uh, but with the we were talking about self-determination theory before, so
mhm.
that includes uh, relatedness, or we could say call it belonging, autonomy. I think that works well. And then for this idea of competence, like when it's stretched, the maximizer in me as we develop competence around creating abilities to pursue our goals. um Mastery, I like the word mastery as something there. And so I think that the domain of autonomy as a basic psychological need sort of maps on nicely to the goal formation notion. And then the idea that we have this need for mastery maps on well with the notion of pathways, like that we're able to create pathways. So I think there's uh, good reason to uh, become intentional about building practical hope. And that is, if we do not do that, we can wind up in these situations of feeling in life hopeless and helpless. And to the extent that we haven't been able to cultivate the pursue our need to belong, you can also throw in loneliness to the mix. So
Mhm.
that sort of uh, depressing triad of lonely, hopeless, helpless is the low end of what I think is a positive mental well-being spectrum, and I would describe that very, very low state. It's not mental illness. It's not good though. As languishing. And then like the way upper end would be flourishing, and imaginary points along the way would be like, okay, good.
Mhm.
I'm really drawn towards trying to uh, create practical ways that people can at least move from languishing to okay, to build hope, to build a sense of efficacy, and to get out of that helplessness, and to create ways to help people find a sense of belonging. And I think at the very tippy top, there's the philosopher Immanuel Kant has this notion that the maximum of mutual love is friendship. So I see that as like the, you know, on the social connectedness scale, I see like the loneliness at the bottom and then like friendship at the top, something like that. So, and I'm saying all that because there is this beautiful well-being model that UNL has been a part of the conversation and the formation of it. And this is with, I believe, some 20 or so higher education associations that each focus on a little slice of the life of a university. And when they all got together and thought about well being, they came up with this. We define well being as an optimal and dynamic state that allows people to achieve their full potential. I love that. That is awesome. How did this come to be, and how do we loop in with that, and how do you unpack that?
Yeah, and I think one of the great things is that it didn't just come out of, as you said, one organization or one thought process. It was a collaboration of several professional associations really talking about different models that are out there and not only focusing on individual well-being but also community well-being and so that connectedness of people that you were talking about before is so core to who we are as humans and so the individual well-being of talking about your basic needs and those being met but then also being able to bring your best self to the community and making sure those that you live amongst have that opportunity to interact and build community and bring what they do best to the group as well. And so this was, I would say, in the formation of a task force, for lack of better term, but there really are three leading age or associations as part of that. So one is the NASPA, which is the Association of Student Affairs Professionals, that has expanded out from there. One is the ACHA, which is the American College Health Association. And then the other one that's kind of the triad that led the charge is NERSA, which is the Leaders in Collegiate Recreation. And so there were, several others that were part of the conversation too. So those that are housing professionals, those that are union professionals, those that are dining professionals, those that are auxiliary professionals, all of the what I would consider student life components of higher education really brought about some of the Okinawan Charter, some of the healthy minds, some of the positive psychology, and leaned in to say, okay, what would represent everybody's kind of World Health Organization definition of wellness? Uh, what does well-being mean to people? But again, that simple definition, I think is amazing because it really just talks about people to live that optimal and dynamic state, and that looks really different for me than another person. But you're not, I guess, grading what that is for somebody. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Um, this is along the way, I ran into somebody that had gotten a PhD in leisure studies. So it feels like there's something counterintuitive in that. Like
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
sounds like a lot of work.
Uh-huh.
But and that's kind of, I think, one of the things is that like leisure can be a serious thing. I mean, hopefully it has playfulness woven throughout, but the intentionality that can go into our leisure pursuits, whether it's physically focused or intellectually focused, I think that's the big, I think, takeaway from the university experience is, hey, this intellectual stuff, hopefully you've encountered enough things that you found something that you just really enjoy.
Hmm.
There's a lifelong hobby for you. Physically, find something there too. If if you've gone through life and haven't had a chance for some of these things, like during your 4 years here or five, unfortunately, as for someone that knows from personal experience, it can be five. That yeah, like it kind of sets us up as um uh the university is a well-being intervention.
Hmm.
That's my take on it. So those intellectual and physical things that contribute to our well-being. I said it.
Yeah, and well, and I think again, the student success is so interwoven with that. You can be in a space and doing very, very well on the academic enterprise side of things, but just because you're learning and knowing that doesn't mean that your student success is happening outside of the classroom too. And I think that's part of the being in that optimal and dynamic state to achieve your full potential. You're probably not getting um, that growth that you need outside of maybe being really, really good at math. But how is the rest of your life going? So, but
Yeah. So I brought up the leisure PhD because this was, I feel like this is one of those little synchronicities. But I was in the library looking for a book, and another book jumped out at me, and it's called Leisure: The Basis of Culture, by a Joseph Pieper, and it's got an introduction by T.S. Eliot, and
hmm,
that just that notion of like the importance of leisure, like there, I mean, not to diminish the importance of work at all, but just that maybe we underappreciate the importance of leisure as something that we can be intentional about. I think is one of the things that sometimes gets missed, and I think campus rec is part of what plays into at least hopefully some part of our leisure is physically based, and I think it's just so important.
yeah.
Have you ever
And I
met
think
someone with a doctorate in leisure studies?
I have not. Well, and that's how I wonder sometimes when I'm like, I wonder what your actual dissertation was on, or was it under leisure studies? I mean, I know some folks that, have been in the recreation management space, but well, maybe that's why they renamed it too, just because of the connotation. I'm not sure, but yeah,
I would, if I did that, I would change my last name to Play so I could be Dr.
Dr.
Plays.
Play, I like it. I like it a lot. Uh,
um, yeah. So
yeah,
another thing, this just a brief little tangent, and that is as you were going over the associations, it
hmm
it takes me back to one of those things that not knowing what my strengths were at the time. I'm a high school student at a library book sale, and I come across a set of reference books, and it's a encyclopedia of all the associations that there are in the US. It's like a 5 volume set, each as thick as a phone book. And it's like something about that, just seeing that there, it's like, wait, all these everybody is has an association, professionals, industries, and these associations all have an association. There's a society of association executives, and it's like, you mean everything's connected? And it was just like this joyful inner thing that I felt, and I bought it. High school student, like, what, you know,
What?
my strength, one of my top strengths is connectedness. I think that was when I look back, one of those, like, oh, okay, yeah, like that's been trying to get it, work it, come out like for a long time. So
Yeah.
sorry for the
That's one of the
tangent.
things,
That
though, I think is so cool about this interassociation definition, though, is you get all of the alphabet soup groups together and that you could actually have this type of outcome. I think that kind of speaks to the importance of the work too, and how important it is to have that balance of, you know, leisure and a culture of that, or a culture of physical health, because, you know, you put 20 groups of acronym or letters of associations together and come out with something pretty good. So, but
yeah, yeah. Seeing all that, how that came about, makes my connectedness happy, just for the
there.
sheer number of associations, and that it's focused on well-being makes my
Mhm.
maximizer happy. So it's
Yeah, there you
like
go. There you go.
another thing, just sometimes goofy things come into my come to mind, and one of them was for the first International Day of Happiness, and which took place in 2013. Pharrell was the spokesperson. His song Happy was out at the time, and one of the phrases in that song is like a room without a roof. And that's what I think well-being may be like. It's like a room without a roof. Is there an upper limit? It's like, maybe. If we look around, it doesn't seem like we found it yet.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
feel like my maximizer has plenty of stuff to do to stay busy. But
Just can't hold it.
um
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So with your strengths, was that something that I was going through life without very much self-awareness, and actually had sort of a negative tape always playing in my head, ruminative, and it was a real revelation. It helped me push pause on that tape, and it was like, wow, I have strengths, other people have strengths, and it was transformative. What was it like for you? Had you been going through life, reasonably well? Was it profound experience, just reinforcing how you were already going?
I I think it was pretty reasonable. I feel like I did have quite a bit of self-awareness, knew myself pretty well.
Mhm.
You know, in that career focus of trying to figure out what I wanted to do, back to the biology piece, I always gravitated towards teaching, coaching, like, oh
Mm.
yeah, maybe you want to do this, but you do really well in a classroom where you get to develop relationships or help people be better versions of themselves. So I wasn't
Mm.
super surprised, you know, with some of my strengths. You know, when you commented earlier about seeing somebody else have a responsibility, I always wish that I maybe had more of the talent, space, and discipline. That's one that I'm like, geez, that'd be nice to have every once in a while to attack things and get things done. But um, what I really like about that awareness of my strengths is I think sometimes it helps me articulate to others um, other ways of you know, because communication is one of them, but other ways to tackle a project or explain a project or work through it, and not in the excuse way of, oh, this is why I am the way I am, but more of the, this is what I can bring to the space. What are you bringing to the space, and how can we achieve whatever that is that we're doing? And I think that's one of the things that I was a little bit more surprised about, is that I would try to do those things, but I didn't necessarily have the vocabulary or the ways to articulate,
Mm.
maybe like going back to my strength and belief, why that's so important to me. but then it gave me some better language to use to share with others. When this work has meaning, just get out of my way because I am ready to move and I'm ready to do the stuff. So
That's awesome. Being one with both developer and relator, that makes that calls to mind for me a phrase that I've heard that's been in the air at UNL since at least 1949, and that is a difference maker. And I'm wondering if I may inquire if you've had people along the way that have been formative and who you feel the person that you in the person that you've become. Are there any difference makers that sort of jump out that you might be willing to share about if that's a part of your journey?
yeah, I think again, going back to my story of floundering, not necessarily languishing, but trying to decide at a point of connecting with campus recreation and working here. My first supervisor, and she's actually the director of recreation at Oregon State University now, but that was an individual too that really had some good life lessons and information to share in regards to big decisions and what that looks like to get me into a space where my overall well-being was in a healthy that I could actually start to think about achieving full potential versus just worrying about basic needs and day to day. And um, I think again that investment in me, acknowledging some of those strengths that I brought, some of the talents that I possessed, and really focusing on those versus things that I could correct or change or do differently. But how I could excel in the things that I was good at. She's really, really helpful there. So
Awesome. And then being in the role of potentially being a difference maker, have you ever been called to be a difference maker, like asked to mentor? Did you have like younger siblings, or have there been situations maybe where a student worker was kind of like lost in life or
yeah,
like
I think I do have younger siblings, and I think serving in a role model and helping along. But I think that's just as much of my daily job as anything, and that's what I really like. Is before I was the director at Campus Recreation, one of my other roles was advising sport clubs, and they would come in regards to what their recognized student organization was doing, and we might be talking about planning a whatever competition for men's rugby, and by the end of that conversation we weren't talking about that at all. We were talking about how is school, how is this, how is that. And so that advisor role, I would have students in my office a lot just on the basics of, hey, this is troubling me. Can I get your advice? Can I vent for a moment? Can I talk through this problem with you just so I can hear it out loud? When you were talking about that play moment, in hospitals, one of she was a student staff for me, a graduate assistant for me, and then she came back professionally. So three different interactions, but she's a child life specialist now. And so it's fun, when you brought that up, I was like, oh yeah, I haven't talked to Shannon in a while. But I think again, that's a huge part of the developer strength for me is, well, and the relator is knowing people as people and being able to have that dialogue with them and develop that relationship. So even when we're talking about a certain maybe very task oriented thing to the job, there's that we have a program here called Husker Grow. It's guided reflections on work, and so helping bring that connection back to, okay, what are you doing right now that's going to serve you in another purpose outside of that. So not necessarily labeling it as mentoring, but it there's a lot of that goes into it. So
nice. Thank you. Uh, you sparked something in me, and that was, I don't even remember how I heard about the child life specialist role, but I saw like a clip on YouTube. I don't know, maybe it suggested something because I was searching for like play research or something. I don't remember, but it was amazing to learn about that and like to know someone who knows someone who does that. I'm wondering if it might be a possibility of reaching out to her. Possibly,
Yeah.
is she someone who seems like she might be willing to share about what that's like on a podcast?
Yeah. Yeah. Most definitely. So
Very
yeah.
coul. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
we could
I'll
talk
have to
about
share her
the
contact information with you. So yes.
very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, yeah, awesome. All right. I was wondering if you might be willing to live critique my well-being framework, being one who's familiar with well-being frameworks. I was trying to approach it from like having or being, having, doing. Like we're a we're a being, and there's kind of this, I think we have this observational self that's sort of a witness to our experiential self, the doer. And so we've kind of, and there's this having also. So like as we build health, that's part of the having. Our health goes with us. We have health. As we acquire knowledge and know-how, we have information. It goes with us. The doing, the one that to me seems to be the biggie, is kind of play. Like I think that's kind of the
Mhm.
foundation of friendship. The We enjoy each other's company. Like people meet at campus rec and the clubs and all that. And uh, so that's sort of like the sort of a background thing. I need to. So happy life is the acronym for the well-being framework. It's not sequential in that being, having, and doing. I should list it out that way too. But anyways, my goal was to come up with a set of goods that are fairly comprehensive in being able to, if you were to do like some thought experiment, like describe like what does a good life look like, and then we analyze it, or like what's a good what's a good thing to do that contributes to human flourishing. Like I want to have a set of uh, goods on hand to be kind of like, we could use these as labels to analyze the narratives that are shared, and we'd be able to categorize everything that people see as good with one or more of these labels. So like, oh, that's an instance of, then like fill in the blank. That there's, I want it to be comprehensive, and I want it to be irreducibly simple. I want it to feel like if we took one of these out, that it'd be like, man, this for some people, this is really an important part of how they feel they live a good life. So it's for listeners, you if you've been listening to the show for a while, you've heard this many times, but it's health, that's physical and mental, aesthetic experience, kind of a nod to natural and created beauty, play. I think of like curiosity, creativity, gameplay, humor as some fundamental modes of play, pleasure, liking, positive emotion, happiness, emotional well-being. Yes, saying, what values do we say yes to in thought and through action, like in our goal pursuits? Life, standing in for the web of life. Information, that stands for knowledge and know-how. Friendship and engagement, that's the happy life, uh, sort of laid out in the acronym form. At the very least, my hope is that it's, if someone gets interested in well-being science, they can, have something that's memorable as a way to like, what are all the pieces of this field again? Like, hopefully, at least it does that. But I also, my hope is that it can be something that is used for reflecting as we think about the what are the values that really matter to us, like prioritizing those, and then we can, if we prioritize these things, then that can sort of help prioritize our goals. And I think it has the potential to have a lot of good implications. And I think everybody kind of has their well-being framework, like it lays out much simpler, like self and community in the IWC model of well-being, or
Mhm.
PERMA for Seligman, and I think the NERSA model has 8 factors in it, something like
Yep.
that. Like,
Yep.
so that's where I see myself trying to like put an entry into that realm of of things. Like, uh, maybe does it feel
I
complete too much? And how would you prioritize a couple of these for yourself? Maybe.
no, I think it does feel complete. And I think again, one of the going back to way old Maslow's hierarchy of, basic needs and moving through that piece too. But starting with the health, both physical and mental, is a huge part of that. And I think that is another one of those for me, back to the meaningfulness of my work, is that I want to be able to move later. I know that when I do things that ground me, when I physically move, that helps my mental attitude. It helps that. I think it's incredibly important, again, too, with that aesthetic experience, that being out in nature, the beauty of life, the wonderful things that are around you, that taking the time to see those. And yeah, they all kind of jump out at me too, because play is such an integral importance of that, and just enjoying what you're doing. You know, I think back to the yes saying. There's that expression sometimes for people with like the both and I look at, the yes saying in this of being more open to, like you said, thought and action, versus it's not being like in the yes responsibility of, oh yes, I'll do that, oh yes, I'll do that, and like the overwhelmingness of task. It's the open-mindedness, the willingness to be like, okay, what do I want to be a part of? And maybe I'm interpreting that wrong, but that's kind of what it says to me. There. And then, again, even in the life portion of that, um, engagement, friendship, going back to what we talked about earlier with belonging and mattering, that's so, I think, core to people flourishing, and figuring out that in life, and those interconnectedness. I saw a diagram the other day about organizational structure. And when you have 3 people, you've got this triangle of workflow, and then you go to 4 people and you've got this square, and you've got 12 people in this web of life and interaction, and it just becomes this wild geometric orb. And it was so cool to see. But I think of that in life, and that web of life, and those meaningful interactions that you have with others, that might develop those friendships. It might have that positive impact on your engagement with others. So I I like the framework. It speaks to me. I can see how it all um, leads into the kind of that well-being framework. And yeah,
I don't
good.
think it's anything new. It's just,
Yeah, yeah.
just a way to put it or something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for reflecting on that a bit. I was that movie by Jim Carrey that Jim Carrey was in, Yes Man, came to mind, and it's like, ooh, I'm a yes man in Lincoln, Nebraska. That was
Well, and
yeah,
I mean, I think that's, part of the things when they talk about people doing improv is, or even right now working with students, of how do you get to both, and, um, but also, kind of back to that information, knowledge, and know-how. If you don't have a lot of self-awareness, or you're, um, learning some things about yourself, taking the opportunity and chances, that's important too. So,
yeah, yeah. Okay, so campus recreation, uh, either in that way or in life in general. Maybe what is it like interacting with leadership across the university? Like, how is that aspect of it seen? Like, how do you interact with the various researchers and the administration, and It feels like everybody could utilize campus recreation. Like everybody has a membership, I think, but the
Yeah,
both that direct and then also the how is campus recreation seen, like, in the cabinet of the chancellor or something like that? Like,
I think that's another one of those where I alluded to earlier, even with my own personal journey, is um, the well-being part of it is so important, and that might not be something that has been well explained to others or connotated in our brand and our name. I will visit with folks across campus in leadership positions and talk about campus rec, and the first thing is, oh, um, you must work out all the time, or oh, I'm going to eat this cookie, do you care? And it's like, that's not what this is about. That's not this, and you don't need to. Everything's good in moderation. But I think that's probably for some people's perspective of us is, we're the gym, and unless you're healthy to begin with, you can't come over here. And so that's one narrative that I try to squash anytime I
mm,
interact with folks. Um, but I think the big thing that even with our students, our mission at Campus Recreation is to enrich the educational experience by promoting lifelong healthy living with active, innovative recreational opportunities, celebrating differences, cultivating a community of supportive relationships, and developing global leaders. And so, any chance I get to share that story, we just want to be the best part of people's day. And so helping people realize that uh, campus recreation is here truly to give people that outlet of play. We're here truly to give people the time to develop those friendships. I was talking to an individual today, and she was sharing with me previously at her time at Nebraska, the one time that her friends had social hour was coming to a yoga class, together, and that was they came to yoga, went out for brunch afterwards, and that was their connection point. So, um, is that on all levels? Is that at the chancellor's cabinet? Is that in the students? Is that with the professors across the street? Not necessarily the same story for all of them, but we try real hard to let folks know. So,
awesome. All right. Looking to the future, what is in store? How does progress come about? What good change would you like to see?
so one of the things that we've been working on in the Division of Student Life, going and leaning into the inter associations working together on that common definition, is also working across departments and units on campus to help tell that story better. So we've landed on 8 dimensions of well-being. We gather together, and one of our big pieces this year is to help connect students to services. I don't think the student minds who's delivering it, whether it's coming from our student life, student leadership, campus recreation, dining services. We just want to make sure they have access to being able to live a dynamic and be their best selves. So one of those things that I see as being really good, that we're trending in the right direction, is we're all starting to take the boat and row without each of us, heading to a different destination. So that's been great, and I think again, including the education for students as part of that there are going to be some times where maybe your bucket isn't full in the emotional well-being, but it's really full in the intellectual well-being, or maybe at that time it's really lacking in occupational well-being, but it's really full in physical well-being. So how can we connect you to those resources? How can we keep educating you? How can we keep developing you so that when you're adding to your toolbox and you're adding to those components of well-being, and you're talking about your health, you're talking about your play, you're talking about your friendships, you're seeing that interconnectedness of that and how it truly is helping you achieve your full potential.
Beautiful. And I really liked your mission statement too. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That is, I can see that.
That goes back into my belief, if I don't believe in what I'm doing. So, but
Yeah, yeah, no, that's awesome. Is that on a website somewhere? We can talk
uh,
about that after, but
yeah, it
yeah,
is on our campus rec website. So,
cool. And is there anything else that I didn't ask about that you would like to share about, or anything you would like to close with? Or how do people find out more? Is it just for campus, or are there moments of engagement with the community in general? What is that
most
like?
of it is just campus, and
Okay.
we do a lot of things with the university community. One piece, though, within Campus Recreation's portfolio is our Outdoor Adventures program, and they do a lot in the environmental space.
Mm,
They do a lot with excursions and trips. And then I think that's a great way for people to connect. One of the
mm,
things we were talking about prior to the podcast starting and kicking off too was we do a lot of outreach with different campus partners that are available to the community. So one of those is yoga on Sunday morning at the Sheldon
mm.
Museum of Art, and so I think that's a wonderful piece. We just wrapped up doing some yoga in the park with Discovery Days on East Campus. So there are ways to connect with us, not necessarily what's available to our students, but we do some outreach outside of that.
Well, it's been a joy to have you as a guest on the program, and go Big Red.
Thank you so much.